So this lesson looks at scatter plots, and what we're going to do is look at different types of correlations that you might observe in a scatter plot. Now, scatter plots are just a collection of ordered pairs on a graph, and in some cases the graph looks like just a bunch of dots all over the place. In others, there's a general trend or a general shape to the graph. And so if we take a look at this example, there doesn't seem to be a straight line relationship between the x and the y variables. However, there overall is a general upward trend. And so what we say is that as one variable increases, so for example, as x increases, y increases as well. So this is what we call positive correlation. And so when x increases, if the value of value of y increases as well, then we say that's positive correlation. And so that when one variable value goes up, the other goes up as well. And an example of positive correlation is if you were to look at the height of a child over time, then as the child gets older, then the height of the child increases. And so if we take a look at the data here, as age increases, then the height of the child increases as well. And so this would be an example of positive correlation. And the growth might not necessarily be linear. Some years it may grow faster than others, but overall, as time passes, the child gets taller. So as age increases, height increases. So that's an example of positive correlation. An example of negative correlation would be where as one variable increases, in this case as x increases, the value of y decreases. And so this would be negative. This has a negative relationship as far as the two variables. In fact, as one goes up, the other goes down. And so as we said, this is an example of negative correlation. In other words, as one variable increases, the other decreases. And we can see that graphically as one goes up, the other goes down. So example of negative correlation is if you buy a car, the older it gets, the value of it decreases. And so this would be an example of negative correlation. Early on, as a car is new, it's worth more. As it gets older, as the age of the car increases, the value of the car decreases. So this would be an example of negative correlation. And example of no correlation is where there seems to be no pattern at all. As x increases here, well, sometimes y decreases, sometimes it increases. So there seems to be no connection or no relationship between these two variables. And if you take a look at baseball players and their batting average, you'll find that there's some people with small shoes are good batters, and some people with big shoes are good batters, and vice versa. Some of them are not good batters. So overall, there's no relationship between the ability to hit a baseball and your shoe size. So that's no correlation. And so if we're taking a look at a series of scatter plots here, and we asked which ones are linear, which ones show a correlation. Well, here, this would be no correlation. And here, there doesn't seem to be any kind of trend, maybe a little bit of a downward trend here, but it's hard to really tell with this one. This one, however, does have, seem to have a linear trend. And D, well, this one doesn't seem to have any correlation at all. E, however, does have a linear trend, and the pattern seems to be as one increases, the other increases as well. And this one has a linear trend as well. So this, since as the independent variable increases, the dependent variable decreases here, so this would be an example of negative correlation. And this one, as one variable increases, the other increases as well. So this would be positive correlation. And since there is really, as one increases, the other variable stays constant, this is called constant correlation. And if we're going to take a look at scatter plots and interpret them, if we take a look at sport utility vehicles in the US and over time, over a number of years, and the sales in millions of dollars, and you'll note that as time goes by, there is an increase over the number of SUVs that were sold in the US. So if we're going to graph this on a grid, what you're going to find is that there is actually a positive correlation here, because when we plot these points and just plotting the points here, so here's 1994 and 1.6, 1995 and 1.7, etc. So we plot these points and note that they're not in a straight line relationship, but the trend appears linear here. And because it's generally a pattern of going up, the trend is increasing. As years increase, SUV sales increase. So this is an example of positive correlation again. And if we're going to predict the sales in 2001, well, then it would be right about here, which would be about 3.5 million SUV sales. That was before the gas prices jumped. So if we were to plot the amount of time spent watching TV and the time spent on homework, then and put this onto a grid, then what we would find as we plot these points on the grid, and so the data is coming from over here, the trend appears linear. However, as number of hours spent watching TV increases, the time spent on homework seems to decrease. And so that means that there is negative correlation here.